All right, welcome to the Solo Musician Podcast. This is episode number 55. I'm your host, Dave Gates, and today I'm going to tackle a bunch of listener-submitted questions through YouTube and Facebook page there for the Solo Musician Podcast. You know, I asked you guys if you had anything you wanted me to cover, and I got a great response. So you guys really submitted some great questions that I think we could all benefit by covering on the podcast here. So let's dive into question number one. And question number one is from Corey Rosen. Corey Rosen has the Story Podcast. So if you guys want to check out any other podcasts, check out the Story Podcast. It's another local music podcast here for Central PA. Corey asked, as a full-time gigging musician, how do you balance covers versus originals? And how would you advise somebody that's a new musician to go about navigating that? And great question, Corey, first of all. I would say that it really depends if that musician wants to stop doing whatever their day job is and become a full-time musician. I can speak to that, some things that you can do to fast track that. But if they're primarily an original artist and they're just looking to create and get their art out there and play like singer-songwriter style events, you know, this isn't going to apply to them as much. I think that they should just always play their originals. I think that's an awesome thing to do. I think that if you are just trying to make a living off of playing music as quickly as possible, you should learn as many covers as you can possibly learn, from as many different genres of music that you can find. The wider your variety of covers that you can play and the deeper your knowledge of different genres of music, the more marketable you'll be to people looking to book solo musicians. You know, the type of venues that we play, breweries and wineries and bars and those types of restaurants, especially restaurants. You know, a restaurant isn't going to have a full band there for the 5 to 8 slot on a Wednesday. We fill these niche environments where they need us to play somewhat familiar music. There's definitely more places for cover artists to play than there are for original artists. So having a wider variety of covers that you can play means you'll have more venues that you can play. It seems like a lot of the venues that we play, they want to have music that people can, you know, if they get a little drunk, they can sing along to, right? And it's that's the type of venues that we play when we're not primarily original artists. I think that original artists have this advantage of being able to play places that cover artists can't because, you know, music licensing or just, I mean, original artists get to play bigger rooms. I mean, they play theaters and concert halls at sometimes, you know, and the reason why they do is because they have people now that want to sing along with their music. They have people that know every word of their songs. To wrap up this ramble, I think the big difference between original musicians and cover musicians is that original musicians create and then cover artists recreate. We both do something. We both create art in our own way. It's just that one is quickly profitable and the one is over the long term profitable. If you're even in it for money, you know, if you're not worried about profit, I mean, do what your heart desires. And I would have to say that generally I don't play my originals unless they're requested. I'm a almost 100% request artist. I have little QR code papers that I put out on all the tables that have links to my website where people can click a button and send me their requests real time, like as a text to my phone. Colin Alvarez, shout out Colin Alvarez. He helped me get that set up. And I play primarily just requested songs at every show. That makes me fit in at a lot of venues. It's like dueling pianos with a solo act. Because they can request songs, they can type whatever they want in those requests. They don't have to find something on my list. And sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. And sometimes I don't because I'm smart. So there is one exception to that, though, and that is festivals and artist showcases, right? So like Amber Nadine, shout out to Amber. She runs Home is Where the Art Is. That's down in York County. And that is an artist showcase. So it's like a Nashville songwriters round where you have 3 or 4 songwriters. Everybody sits up there, you do a song, you talk about the song a little bit, you play the song, and then you watch the person beside you talk about their song and play a song. And I'll tell you what, don't play covers at those. Those crowds don't want to hear a cover at all. And that is beautiful. What they're there for is to support you and to hear something new, right? So whenever you're playing to those people, you can let it all out on the line. You can play 4 emotive songs in a row, and you can take time telling them just how you created it, how this song came to life, what the inspiration was. They want to know. You know who doesn't want to know that? The people at a restaurant on a Wednesday night that are trying to eat and you're too loud, right? It all depends on what you want to do with music. If you want to make money quickly, if you want to succeed financially as a solo musician as fast as possible, learn as many covers as possible from as many genres as possible, and you'll be in great shape. Question number 2 comes from a local musician, Dave Thompson. He asked, do you see the same contraction in the live music industry and community as I do? And short answer to that, Dave, is I absolutely do. The big thing that I see right now is a tightening of budgets for live music. I also see a lot of bars going to, pay based on how many people you can bring. I see less venues hosting music. I definitely would describe it as a contraction. That was a great way to put it. That being said, I think the additional question we should be asking on top of if we notice it is why? Like, why is it happening? And I think the answer to that is relatively simple. I think the times are hard, to put it mildly, I guess. I think that the last couple of years have been rough for live music venues because people got really fired up about being able to go out again in 2021, 2022. You couldn't go to a bar. Like, a lot of times you had to have reservations at a lot of places. You would drive by a bar at 8:00 at night on a Friday and every parking spot would be filled. It was people were just happy to be out and be allowed to be out and be in groups again and hang out and, experience live music again. And not having to watch it on a live stream, right? Because it's not the same thing. And people were just fired up to be out. So at that time, everybody was booking music. Everybody. Like, my schedule at the time, I would have, on Monday nights, I would have TGI Fridays over on the Carlisle Pike. I would play there on Mondays. On Tuesdays, I'd be at a bar. On a Wednesday, I'd be at some fancy restaurant in York. On Thursday, I'd be playing some brewery in Lancaster. On Friday, I'd be, back up in Lewistown playing at Shy Bear. And on Saturday, I'd have a private party. And then there was so much work as a solo musician in 2021, 2022. And then gas went up to $4 something a gallon. My grocery bill quadrupled. My car insurance doubled. A burger and fries is $15 now. If you want to eat a salad at a restaurant, it's $18, and the lettuce is wilted and the onions are funky. It's a crazy time. And then you add on top of that the fact that everything in venues, everything for venues has risen considerably as well. So venues now have higher music licensing fees. They have higher, food costs, higher beverage costs, increased insurance, increased wages. They have all of these things that they're now shelling out more money for as well. And all this is going to kind of tie in together to kind of give the reason why. There's the cost of just being a musician has gone up. The lodging for traveling to shows far away from home has gone considerably up. Gas prices are up. It's harder to get to the gig now with gear and with everything else. So musicians are charging more. And venues can afford less. Barely made it through COVID, right? So to bring everything together, I think the contraction that we're feeling right now in live music is that some people are over going out now. You see, I think a lot of the excitement to be out with other people and be allowed out of the house and drink in a bar and be close to others and experience live music has worn off in some ways. For some people, this isn't across the board. This isn't a generalization. I would say it's more of just an observation. And the audiences in general aren't the same size they were in 2021 or 2022. One big reminder I got of that this year was Steph and myself and Colin and his wife Chelsea. We went out for Thanksgiving Eve to see Observe the 93rd play over at Club XL. Biggest drinking night of the year. They at the time PA was offering these sober ride vouchers, so anybody could get a $40 voucher for an Uber. So nobody had to drive that night. Nobody. And we went out. We saw them, and there might have been 80 people there. I remember a few years ago where it would be 400 or 500 people stuffed in that place. And pre-pandemic, it would be you'd be not be getting in. I also think that seeing a solo act in like the corner of a bar somewhere has lost some of its novelty. Whenever the pandemic was going on, people would be surprised whenever they would come into the coffee shop and see somebody playing there. Or they would be surprised if they would come to a restaurant on a Tuesday night and there was a guy up there playing some music, trying to entertain everybody while they socially distanced, right? I think the novelty of that is worn off a little bit. I'm going to say something that might offend some people here, but to some people, seeing a solo act in a bar now is a nuisance because they've seen so much of it over the last couple of years. There are definitely places where those people will get up and leave when they see you even remotely setting up your gear. Like if they see a guitar come in the door, they're getting their check. And that happens. Like I saw a Yelp review for this steakhouse. I'm not even going to call them out right now, but I saw a Yelp review for this steakhouse, and the guy said, "I'm not paying $150 plus a 20% tip just to hear another rendition of Wonderwall." I was like, "Oh shit, I feel your pain, dude." I mean, it makes sense, right? Like we're everywhere now, and I love it. But I also think that leads to some contraction in the market as well, because there's not as much of a demand. I think there was a statistic that came out the other day that said like 40% of homeowners during COVID did some kind of renovations or upgrade to their space because they got tired of looking at it. So there's a lot of people now that they went out for a little bit, but now they're like, let's just relax in the cool spot we created. Why are we going out when everything's so expensive? We could just buy it and have it here. I will say I'm really not sure how this shakes out though, because, things are more expensive for musicians. Things are more expensive for venues. Things are more expensive for consumers of live music or the patrons of the restaurants and the types of places that we play. We can't start charging less to play because it's more expensive to live right now. And I'm speaking just solely as a gigging musician. Like, because it costs so much to be a musician right now, you have to charge a little bit more to accompany that. And when you're trying to charge more and the bar's trying to pay you less, you're like a little bit of a stalemate. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. And then the bars get squeezed for music licensing fees that are higher than they were before. And they're like, you know what? I just won't have music. And that's the decision a lot of them are making because they're financially in a spot where they have to make that decision. They can't really afford to sit back and build the music scene at their venue. They need immediate results. They need immediate return on investment, or they're going to start looking at it as a failure. That's the difference between a restaurant that has music and a restaurant that supports live music or a venue that has live music versus one that supports it. A live music venue supports live music. They eat it on some shows and then they rake it in on other ones. And that's how their business model works. But no matter what, they're supporting live music that's their product. And I think one of the ways that venues can get a big return on investment is just by making music and the music that they provide to their customers, making that one of the products that they sell. So making sure that they make a post about the music being there, making sure that they pay their music licensing so they don't get shut down or have to cancel or clear their schedule for all the musicians that they already booked months and months in advance. If they put some effort into selling the music and it doesn't work, then I think you're on solid ground to be like, you know what? Maybe it doesn't work here right now. We'll try it again at some other point. Or it's a good time to figure out, why is it not working? Are we doing everything that we can to make our customers know that we have live music? Are we listening to our customers about what kind of live music they would like to have? Do our customers want primarily country music, and am I booking a classic rock act? Do my patrons want a DJ? Do they not want live music at all? All of these things would really help the music industry push forward and make better spots for everybody to perform at. That's my opinion. Like, I see places flourish with a DJ, like Back Porch Brewing in Carlisle. They have a DJ, they get packed asshole to elbow in there, which is a weird way to pack people in. And they host live bands, and the live bands do okay sometimes. And then they put solo acts in there, and most of them die a slow death in that large room. And it's like, why is that? Because solo acts probably don't go over that well there. The clientele's a little bit younger. The room is a cavern, so it's not very personal, and it's just the nature of that room. But, recognizing that and adjusting to that is better than thinking that live music doesn't work at your location. So what I will say to wrap up your question, Dave, is that, everybody I talk to that's been in this music game for more than 10, 15 years, they've seen multiple cycles of this, okay? So it's just this wave that's going to continue. And I think that as prices come down, I think that the cost of musicians, we can start to play shows. Like, I'm already playing some shows for a little bit less because I'm trying to help the venues out. And I think that that's where we're at right now. I don't know if that's across the board, across the country, but I think that's where we are in Central PA. And I appreciate the question, man. So thank you so much for submitting that. I did start this group on Facebook called the Solo Musician Life group. And it's really just for solo musicians. And in that group, everybody has the freedom to kind of put up whatever posts they want to put up to spark conversation and give some teaching moments, I guess, in the group. And Chuck Britton Music, which Chuck Britton was on the podcast, make sure you check him out. The other day, asked if anybody ever plays morning gigs. And he said, in 20 plus years, I don't think I ever have, but I've got a Kegs and Eggs party for St. Patty's Day, 8 a.m. start time. He said, what songs do I play at Kegs and Eggs? And any suggestions are welcome. So I've played a bunch of gigs that started between 8 and 10 over the last 5 years. And the one thing that has helped me more than anything is drinking a ridiculous amount of water the day before. Because the more you hydrate your vocal cords, the more they stay hydrated overnight. Whenever you wake up in the morning, those bad boys are good to go. Okay? And I know that may not be easy because drinking any kind of water at night is probably a recipe for terrible sleep, but it really helps the vocal cords. So you'll have to sacrifice some sleep for that. I also drink hot tea the morning of the gig. I drink a little bit, not too hot. You will destroy your voice, but lukewarmish tea. Drink that the morning of the gig. Put a little bit of honey in it. That's super helpful. And then, St. Patty's Day is a easy one as far as music goes for, Dropkick Murphys and the Dubliners and all of these different, the Pogues, all of these different Irish bands that you can learn, the Irish Rovers, all of these groups that you can kind of incorporate and play some traditional Irish stuff and just pepper it in. It's a lot like Christmas music. If you're playing a show on St. Patty's Day and all you play is Irish tunes, you're going to lose them. If you're playing a Christmas event and all you play is Christmas tunes, you're going to lose them. You got to pepper them in. And then for the rest of it, just keep it fun. Don't play any ballads. Try not to play any ballads on St. Paddy's Day. So that would be my advice, Chuck. All right, the next question that came in the Solo Musician Life group was submitted by RJ Conrad. He's been on the podcast as well. He asked, where do you fall on the spectrum of I'm making a set list and sticking to it to I'll play anything, especially if you tip well? And I mean, you guys know where I stand on that. But what I'll say, if I go a little bit deeper, I'll go a little bit deeper on the subject. I'll play almost anything if I know it. I also make a set list. Both of those things have to happen for me to feel comfortable on stage. So I have to have a generalized set list of songs that I'd like to play just in case I don't get requests. And it never happens that I don't get requests. So normally, like, I'll have a set list of like 40 songs, right? And they'll just kind of be there. I'll be like, all right, these ones are my just in case nobody requests. And usually I'll do 3 of them or 4 of them a night. Sometimes I'll do songs that aren't even on that list because that's just a generic list that will cover at least something from most genres of music. I don't know if that's going to help very much if you don't do requests or if you don't do covers. All right, let's hit one more question from the group here. And guys, if you're a musician, submit to the group. I'll approve you, and then we can get some more questions rolling in here because I love these kind of questions. I like to hear what you do. I like to see what the difference is because there's so many different approaches to this. So make sure you send a request to the group. All right, so the last question here comes from Brian Derek Burrows, and he says, does anyone here have Santeria by Sublime in their set list? He doesn't like the song personally. He said he kind of equates it to Wonderwall. Said it doesn't really strike him lyrically. I personally love Santeria. That's one of my, I'm a gigantic Sublime fan though. I mean, there's a poster behind me right there that has Bradley on it. So Santeria does it for me and I like playing it, but I will say, it absolutely is a hit with most crowds. Just in general, I played it probably out of the 3 shows I played last week. I probably played it at all 3 of them. And that was through a request. So it's getting requested at every show. And I would say it's definitely worth learning it. You can find a way to make it super fun. That's my take on Santeria. Hopefully that gives you a reason to learn it because I think people will really love to watch you play it. That'll be the episode for this week, guys. I'm looking forward to doing more of these Q&A style podcasts in the future. As for next week, I will have Leo DeSanto on the podcast. Leo has traveled the world, literally playing as a solo musician. He's from the Lancaster area here in central Pennsylvania. He's played in Ireland. He's getting ready to release a new album. I love Leo's music and his minstrel style of performing where he tells stories and he cracks jokes, and he's a true entertainer and a very, very unique and awesome individual. So I'm very excited to talk to him. I think we have a lot to talk about next week. If you want to submit any questions for me to ask Leo, hit the Solo Musician Podcast Facebook page or drop a comment on YouTube on this video for a question for Leo, and I'll make sure I get that on the podcast. And I will see you Thursday for the Thursday Thoughts episode, everybody. So have a great week.
See you next time. Don't stray by. Your love is our shining star. Keep the harmony in your heart. We'll be together, though we're apart.